You know, I was just thinking, looking at the calls and that have come in, what are your rights as a human being? Do you know what they are? Your rights are the rights you stand up for. Period. If you don't stand up for them, you don't have any rights. People will take advantage of you every time. It's not that they're bad. It's just that people will expand their territory right into your backyard if you let them. So you have to stand up. It's required. You can't be happy unless you're willing to set up a border between you and other people. It's called protecting your limits.
The first 2 or 3 calls tonight were really sad calls, and they were people who seemed to not have any control over the things that were happening to them. And then as the evening has progressed, it's more people who are doing stuff that doesn't make them happy and trying to change, looking for a way to change.
Yeah, but it's this thing again and again that if you don't give people a hard edge when they're out of control or making unrealistic demands on you, they think that's permission to go ahead. You really have to stand up for your rights, and until you do, you get crushed all the time.
On this phone sex thing, you know, we've had several calls in the last few weeks, and I had no idea that it was this big a business, that there would be so many young women living in Los Angeles involved in making a
Well,
living.
someone's going to be
this.
at the other end of those 976 numbers. And
Well,
if you take a look at the free press in town, they have pages of phone lines to call in, and each one promising more thrills than the next. I think it's, you know, it's amazing.
And I think someone's making a lot of money, and it's probably not these young women who are calling us.
I'm sure that's true. Who do we have?
We have Bob on line 7 who is having some real compulsion problems.
Bob.
Hi, David.
How you doing, Bob?
Well, I'm really kind of messed up right now.
How old are you?
I'm 55.
What's wrong?
Well, my wife and I have been married 35 years, and she believes I'm a sex addict because I like to go to these girly bars and pornography. I've been doing this for about 30 years, and she feels that it's time to either me quit doing it or it's time to separate. And I don't really feel I'm a sex addict. I feel I'm just a regular guy.
Well, you're a regular guy for you. Why has your wife put up with it for 30 years?
I don't know.
That interests me more than anything else about this. I mean, how does she feel about it? Do you fight about it?
Yes.
How often do you go to a sex bar?
Well, I haven't been to one in probably 6 or 7 months because of the threat, you know. And I don't want to lose my marriage.
Okay.
And so I just quit going, but she said she wants me to quit going because I want to go. But yet I still really want to go.
Is she willing to divorce you because you haven't stopped wanting to go?
Separate anyway. Or her go her way and me go my way.
Well, what do you think the reason behind this is?
Her feelings or mine?
Yours.
Mine? I don't have any idea.
You think you're just a regular guy?
Yeah, except I don't have sex with my wife at home very often.
Well, that's not a regular guy.
I guess not.
So you're not a regular guy. If you were having regular sex with your wife, things would be different. Tell me about how you see your wife.
What do you mean, how I feel?
How you see your wife.
Oh, she's a real good person, and I love her. And
were you ever sexually interested in her?
oh, sure.
Did it change?
Yeah.
When? He said sadly.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
But it did change.
Yeah.
When?
See, when we were married a long time, at first she didn't like sex, and now as we've gotten older, she likes it more than I do, and I don't have much sexual drive.
And when did it change?
I don't know exactly. I'd say, 8 months ago, something like that.
Her sexual drive increased 8 months ago.
Right.
About the time she started to get on you that she didn't want you to have any more of these external interests.
Right. She overheard a conversation between me and a friend of mine that's separated from his wife, and he's a couple of years older than me, and he was fooling around with some girl, but they were separated.
Okay, so she became anxious.
Yeah, I would say so.
So
yeah.
she started trying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to say to you is not going to be very happy.
Well, that's okay.
But you already know it. Your relationship has not been an open, close relationship.
Right.
Right, you admit that.
Yeah, well, she tells me I'm not a close person. I never have been.
But the point is, neither is your wife.
I didn't know that.
Why would she have chosen you and put up with you for all this time? If she had needs that weren't going unfulfilled, surely she would have made a point of getting them filled somewhere else. Did you guys ever do couple therapy? Ever?
We tried it once in communications, and that didn't work because he said he couldn't help us.
What did he think was wrong?
But he didn't think we had any problems communicating.
That doesn't sound like he didn't think he could help you.
Well, that's what he said.
All right, I think there's a huge problem there.
And another one said, Tuesday we saw another psychologist, and he said that we were both so far away from coming to that he couldn't bring us together.
You want a divorce?
No.
Does your wife want a divorce?
If I don't quit, I think she wants us to separate, or at least her go her way.
Well, it's going to happen one way or the other. Either you're going to get better or you're not going to get better. But I think the problem is in the relationship. And the problem is with you opening up. I think you like the distance that you can have, the involvement with all these fantasy objects. But I think what you really are missing in your life, you sound like a very lonely man.
Well, I'm pretty withdrawn.
Yeah, and you sound, if I may be permitted, a little depressed.
Oh, I'm a lot depressed.
And I think you need help. And I don't think it's a matter of just going to one counselor and saying, I can help you or I cannot help you. You need to get help for depression, and you need to do that as quickly as possible. Tell me, what do you think you're depressed about?
I don't know. I had kind of a screwed up child. I had a very screwed up childhood.
Tell me.
I was molested when
What?
I was about. Pardon me?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I was molested when I was about 14.
By
a male.
and
A family member.
who?
A family member.
Who?
My grandfather.
And how long did that go on?
Oh, that just was one time.
And your reaction to that?
I didn't like it.
But your feeling about yourself was what?
Well, really, I think I just blocked it out because I just admitted to her about a month ago. And I never told anybody but her and you and millions of people on TV.
But that's the beginning of it, because you have some feelings about that, I'll bet, right?
Yeah, it's pretty hurtful, and it hurts a lot now.
Because it makes you feel what?
Dirty, and I feel guilty.
And therefore the objects that you are attaching yourself to are dirty objects.
Well, I never thought about that.
Well, they're objects with whom you feel on a par. If you feel your wife is a good person, then having sex with her doesn't feel interesting because she makes you feel guilty. She's so good and you're so dirty.
See, because I don't know that was my first sexual experience. Can I say what it was on TV or not?
Sure.
Okay, he performed oral sex on me. And I don't, but he didn't force it, so is that molestation?
What do you mean he didn't force it?
He didn't coerce or make me do it.
You were curious.
No, I didn't want to do it. But I mean, it wasn't an abusive thing, you know?
Well, abusive enough that the hurt has lasted all these years.
Yeah, because I loved him a lot.
I'm sure, and you didn't want to disappoint him or hurt him.
But I feel guilty because I feel like I could have said no and ran or whatever.
You have to work this out, pal. Because this is what everyone feels in that situation.
Killing
You know-
me.
Well, I know, and for all these years I can feel it just starting to go to the surface now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is that a person in authority in your life can control you very powerfully with a word or a phrase. They don't need to force you. They just need to, they just need to say, "Oh, come on, Bobby."
But I mean, he was a great guy. Everybody loved him.
I didn't say he wasn't.
No, I mean,
Right?
yeah.
Right. Okay, you got to work this out. Let me tell you something. You work this out, I think your relationship is savable. Because I think all the rest, the addiction, is an attempt to prove that you're all right, that you're not gay, that you're not bad. And I think you need some help with that. You stay on the line. We're going to get your referral.
But am I a sex addict?
No, you're an abused child who is trying to work out the feelings of your childhood by dealing with all these other fantasy objects, other people. And these are there are questions that your soul has been pushing forward all these years that you need to answer. Stay on. We're going to give you a referral because you really need help.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Dottie?
Well, we're going to go to break, but I just wanted to tell you that we just have a call in from a guy who has an experience with a UFO, and I know how much you love those, so I wanted to just to tease you that we're going to be talking to him soon.
Well, I'm fascinated by them. It's not that we'll be right back with a guy who had an experience with a UFO. David Viscott, and the call's coming up. There's what a variety.
We have right now on line 3 Stephanie, who has an encounter coming up in 2 days that she's very scared about.
Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi, can you speak up, please?
Okay.
How old are you?
21.
What kind of an encounter are we talking about?
Well, my grandmother passed away 2 days ago, and I was molested by my uncle when I was 9 years old, and I haven't seen him since I was 14 years old. And with the funeral coming up, I'm going to have to see him, and I don't know how I should react to him.
Well, have you been going through some feelings about him recently?
Well, since not really, just since my grandmother died.
Okay. Who knows of this?
Everybody. See, that's another thing. We're going to see, the whole family, none of my dad's family believed me that I was molested.
Did your father believe you?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
But he still talks to them.
Okay. And it was his mother?
It was his stepmother.
Okay. And have you spoken to him about it?
Not really, no.
Well, it's a good idea to talk to him about it. Tell him you're having some fears about meeting with your uncle, and you're frightened about what that's going to mean. And have you confronted him before?
Yes, I have. I confronted him over the phone, and my mom was on the other line because, they wanted to hear him saying.
And what did he say?
Well, I told him that I told my parents what he did to me, and he was telling me that he was young too, and
so he admitted it.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. So does your mother bear witness to that?
Yes, she does.
And has she told your father's family that she heard him admit it?
Excuse me?
Has she told other people that she heard him confess it?
Yes, she has.
And they still didn't believe it?
No, I guess they really stick together. So, we went to court over.
Does he deny it?
I don't know about now because this is like 7 years now, and we don't talk about it or anything.
Well, you don't expect to talk about it with them. I would be with your mother and father during this whole thing. There's no need to confront him.
But what about if I see him? Should I just hold my head up, or do I?
Look him square in the eye and smile at him.
Okay.
It'll make him crazy.
All right. Thank you very
But
much.
be with your mother and father. There's no need for you to go and make contact with him.
Okay.
It's just not necessary.
All right. right.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, sometimes it's just a little point you need to know that makes all the difference. I'm trying to find Dottie, but you know, I want to tell you something about this. If you're going to confront someone, there has to be a purpose in the confrontation, either to get the old feeling out, or to bring the other person to some sense of justice, or to make peace. But if there's no purpose, why put yourself through it?
I'm here.
I'm out of breath, but you're quite a...
Well, sometimes I have to run in the back and do a few things and then come back here. On line 2, we have Carol, who is having a relationship with 2 men in the same family.
You're laughing, Carol.
Yeah. I don't know how I get myself into these things.
How old are you?
40.
You're having a relationship with who?
Well, it started off when I met the son,
How old is he?
17.
You're 40.
Yeah. I don't look 40, but I'm
Not that that has any bearing on the case, right? Go ahead.
incidental. But I'm getting over a very devastating breakup. Happened about a year ago, and I'm still not really over it.
Okay, so any port in the storm, is that what this is?
I guess it was intended to be a one-night stand that turned into about 2.
So with a 17-year-old boy, you're still looking to see that you're desirable and youthful, and your comment back was, I don't look it, right? So that's
yeah,
a
and
real...
I did find it very flattering.
Well, I know, but you also found it very reassuring.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, you still do.
Definitely.
Carol, you're your own worst enemy here. Go ahead. And now you're having an affair with whom?
Oh, well, he introduced me to his father,
All in the family.
and it looks like it could potentially become a very serious relationship.
With having slept with both of them.
Beg your pardon?
Does the father know?
No, that's
So
where
now-
the problem. I
well,
don't know if
the
I
pro-
should tell the father.
Well, the problem is you have a son.
It's kind of, with the son, it's kind of a platonic thing with
Oh, come
incidental
off of it,
sex.
Carol. You know, I mean, all you're going to do by getting involved with the father is damage the son.
He and I have discussed it.
And what does he feel? Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know how uncomfortable that is?
Oh, I can imagine.
No, I don't think you can. You wouldn't have gone this far. Or if you can imagine and went this far, then you don't care enough about the son to be involved in his life as a stepmother. You've already ruined the relationship. Can we just start there? And instead of bringing misery to 2 people's lives, you'll be the woman they had in common and let it go. Your problem is that you feel discarded from your first relationship. That makes you feel like someone who needs to bind with someone to heal the wounds. Obviously, you're kind of dependent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you feeling as I talk to you?
Like a hollowed out shell.
But that's how you've been feeling for a year, right?
That's how I've been feeling all my life. My father was an alcoholic, and I was rejected by him at a very early age. And
All right, so let's interject. Whatever is wrong in your life, no matter how low your self-esteem is, don't compound it by hurting a 17-year-old boy, all right?
I really don't want to hurt anyone.
All right, so this relationship's off limits because it'll only make you feel worse. Talking purely selfishly. It'll be a conflict. Whenever you're with the father and see the son, you'll feel terrible knowing that the son's being torn inside. Right?
Well, that's not the way he expressed it to me, though.
Rubbish. He's uncomfortable. He can't even express it with you. It just isn't right. If it feels right with him, it's so wrong I can't begin to tell you what that means. It means something's really wrong in their relationship and you're compounding it. Carol, come on. Your life has some stuff to be settled, right?
Very true.
Okay, so let's focus on your life because that's where the problem is, right? In
Yeah.
a nutshell, why did this other relationship end?
When it started, it wasn't. It was intended to be a one-night stand
The relationship with the other guy?
with the son.
No. I'm talking about the guy who dumped you.
Oh, we were living together.
Mm-hmm. Why did it end?
He was a very heavy drinker, and when he threw my son into the refrigerator and broke a couple of his ribs, I decided it's time to get the hell out of there.
How old is your son?
He's 12 now. He had just turned 11 when it happened.
Did you have any better warning than this?
Oh, I knew he...
Yes, you did, didn't you? How long had you been getting warnings that you ignored?
I guess for as long as I know.
That's correct. That's the
I've been with alcoholics all my life.
I know. And have you been in Al-Anon?
Yes.
How often have you gone?
I haven't gone in some time. My health has been pretty bad lately. And
What is that supposed to mean?
I stay home a lot.
Yeah, why don't you start going to some Al-Anon meetings and start working on this problem and focus on making your life with your son a little more wholesome instead of acting out these feelings of rejection by trying to bond to anyone who can make you feel good about yourself. You know, it's time to break those chains from the past.
But this thing with the father really does seem to be totally different from anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah, but don't they all feel that way?
No, they don't.
They don't. Carol, one of the things that's wrong is that in your life, your abusiveness that's been dealt you over your life and your growing up among alcoholics has led you to become as self-centered as the people who abused you. Terribly self-centered. So self-centered that you were unable to defend your son in time. So self-centered that your needs become more important than your own protection. And this has to change. Finally, this has to change. I want you to start going to Al-Anon. No excuses. Okay. I don't care how sick you are, coughing, wheezing, broken bones, go to Al-Anon 5 days a week. It's time. You have to get better on this one. Too many people suffer. Yes?
Well, we have our UFO call, but before we get to it, I just want to mention that I have a flyer here about the Women's Expo that's going to be next weekend, Saturday and Sunday at the LA Convention Center. And as I read through these speakers, I see Sybil Shepherd, Dana Delaney, Dinah Shore, Gloria Allred, and Dr. David Viscott. I believe you're speaking on Sunday?
Yes, and I'm not a woman.
No, but obviously all the other people are women, so they must feel that you're compassionate about women's issues. So that's something that people should possibly look into. It's called Visions, the Women's Expo 1992.
Yeah, that should be very good. And I'll be there after my speech and to meet people the Viscott Center is going to have a booth there, and I'll also be there a little bit on the Saturday as well.
Okay.
So there.
All right, so on line 9, we have John, who has had an
Let me
encounter.
figure it out. John,
Yes,
how old are you, John?
46.
What's going on?
Well, I've just now started to have things come together, and I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I'd had these dreams about these beings that were kind of like chasing me around my room to get me in the corner, and I didn't make much of it. I did have an experience about that time that did kind of scare me, as I levitated about 4 feet off the ground. And all I could do is look down. I was kind of like couldn't figure out what was happening to me. And then I began having these nightmares somewhere about the middle.
How were you levitated?
Well, that's the problem. I don't know. All I know is
Was
that
there any sensation of being raised up, or did you just find yourself up?
well, I noticed the ground leaving from underneath me.
Okay. And was there any change in anything you saw at that moment?
I didn't look on the parallel. I looked down. I just
But
couldn't.
as you looked down, did you see anything?
Well, yeah, I could see the ground.
Okay, and the ground, was it lit differently than before in any way?
No, this was in the day. This was like broad daylight.
I understand. Was it lit any differently?
Lit?
Yeah. Was it brighter or darker?
No, it looked the same.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyhow, I didn't really begin to take too much stock in it until about halfway through my marriage. I was married in '69. I still am married. And about halfway through, I began to wake up my wife screaming with these nightmares.
Go ahead. And what were they?
Well, it was a sensation as though I was being dragged off to some place where I didn't know.
And what was the experience in the place?
Pardon?
What was your experience of that place? Did you get there ever?
That's what I don't know. I blacked out. See, it's like you see the classic scene of somebody goes out deer hunting or something and they strap it to the car, or you see them pick up a man, carry him over their back. Well, I had a sense of being carried, and I couldn't move a muscle. I was paralyzed completely.
And when did these start occurring?
Well, the dreams, well, like I said, about maybe in the first third or fourth part of my marriage, from '69 to say about, it was probably somewhere around '72 to '74, '75.
Have they changed at all? Do you still have any experience now?
No, I don't have any experience there, but I had a strange sort of euphoric kind of feeling that came over me. The first case I ever took serious was the case took place over Ann Arbor, Michigan in 1966. And I had a sort of a sense of euphoria from that, because I always thought, like everybody else, or a lot of people, I thought it was a lot of nonsense. I remember down in the third and fourth grade when we had share and tell, kids talking about, well, they went to Arizona where the flying saucers landed, and I thought they were, fruitcakes. I thought there was something,
So you're saying you are sensing that something happened to you?
Yeah, I think maybe, and I'm not sure. I just, all I have to go on is a very sketchy, very vague kinds of evidence. And I try to put this together, and I have this sort of, you see something that scares you to death, and yet you're kind of fixed on it. I noticed that, like, I bought a copy of the tape Communion with Whitney Strieber.
Yeah, that's very personalized. I make a suggestion that you contact Dr. David Jacobs.
David Jacobs?
Yeah. He's at Temple University in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And he has researched a lot of these cases and would know just how to go about helping you deal with some of the stress and to make a better evaluation of what it is that actually happened.
Well, I did have one problem. That was not connected to this particular problem. I've been going for psychotherapy since 1966. And
well, for what?
Well, for you name it. They've said I've got got all of the mess. And but the thing is, I had in 1982, I had some experience with this hypnotherapy, but I didn't quite go deep enough, and I don't know if that would be. I don't know if there'd be any reason to be confident of that approach to find out what really did go on.
Well, sometimes hypnotherapy does reveal another sense of reactions, but talking to David Jacobs, I think, will help you. He also has a book out on that subject that could be useful to you, and it's about, the title slips my mind, but David Jacobs at Temple University. Give him a call, and he'll put you in touch. We'll be right back, no matter what your contact is. One sentence on UFOs, because I want you to know how I really feel about it. It's quite obvious that there's a large number of people who are reporting them who are neither nuts, nor hysterical, nor seeking news. There is a phenomenon out there that needs to be explained, and the explanations that people give for them don't make a lot of sense. And there is a strong case for this being another intelligence. I just think you need to keep an open mind with these things. I think you should keep an open mind with everything, even if you seem gullible. I'm not saying to go believe it, but listen to it all. The jury's still out, and I'm still gathering evidence, and I'll continue to do that. You have an experience about it? I'm interested in knowing it. Simple.
Simple. On line 12, we have Rosa, who's wondering about some things that can be
Someone in the
inherited.
studio is going da-dee-da-da, da-dee-da-dum. No, go ahead. I'll get them afterwards.
Rosa on line 12, who's having some questions.
Rosa.
Hi.
Hi, Rosa.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I have a 2-year-old son. My husband and I both have a 2-year-old son. And my husband is a cross-dresser. He has been since childhood. And
You knew about it all along?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. And when we found out that we were pregnant, we were really concerned about having a child and bringing them up in this type of an atmosphere. We hadn't planned on having children, and this just kind of happened. So
In other words, you didn't disapprove.
No, not really. I mean, I was friends with him for 3 or 4 years prior to even becoming.
And would he dress up with you and you'd go out in the town together?
Sure. Yeah. As odd as that sounds.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Odd is not my judgment.
Okay.
Okay. And now?
Now we have a 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
And we've been to 6 psychologists that I can name or think of, and nobody has really been able to give us any, advice as to whether we should keep this from, the boy as he's growing up, or whether we should let him know about it, or what. I mean, we've gotten a lot of, excuse me, I don't have the answer for that.
I got a lot of...
Or, Mark, you should quit altogether. And we tried to...
He obviously isn't going to quit.
No.
And you have no desire making him quit because you accepted him on that basis.
Well, he's tried to quit in the past.
What do you mean tried to quit?
Well, we took the one psychologist's advice, because we really want the best for our son. And this went on for 4 or 5 months, and he became almost intolerable to live with. It's a stress release for him. And I knew that the man was really trying to keep things under control. He works a very stressful job. And
What does he do?
He's an oil refinery worker.
I'm just imagining how a burly, oily, refined worker looks in a gown.
Yeah, well, not too bad.
Okay. So his relationship with the boy is what?
Beautiful. Just great.
The kid has no need to know.
Okay, what about this idea? Now, we've thought about that, believe me. But we're under the impression that eventually he will find out.
Eventually he will find out.
And then it will be almost like a lie, that trust.
Well,
between-
you could go to a Halloween party, and he can see his father dressing up as a woman for a Halloween party and think it's funny.
Well, I think it needs to happen more than once a year. That's the
Well, I
problem.
know, but that's
Okay.
where I would start. Halloween is a time of that, as you know.
Okay, right.
Anyone who lives in this town knows about that.
Right, okay, right.
Okay. The main thing is you don't want to provide the model for him repeating the behavior because it produces a lot of discomfort.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I believe in openness with children, and the kid's going to find out. the main thing is he needs to have a relationship with his father where he sees his father for the man that he is, and for all the strength and that sort of thing.
Right.
And it can be a secret that his father tells him later on in the midst of a relationship, where he and his father are sharing something very intimate.
Okay, can I ask you something?
But
then?
I would not
Go ahead.
reveal it till then.
Okay. Mark does this about once or twice a month, okay, and he has a lot of the paraphernalia, if you will, in closets and things like that. Are you telling me that we totally purge the house of all of this? And
You're telling me that your son is going to know the difference?
whether it's his or mine?
Yeah.
Definitely, because because I'm almost just the opposite. I mean, if I put a dress on, I'm in drag. You know what I'm saying? I am a blue-collar worker. I wear a lot of Levi's. I wear a lot of dungarees and tennis shoes and things of this nature. I don't
There
wear
are
wigs.
dresses in the closet for a kid to go in there and say, "Hey, Ma, these must be Dad's," is like an absolute stretch of the imagination that only your guilt and confusion would make. He sees a dress in the closet. He's got a mother and he's got a father. My guess is that he's going to think that it's his mother's dress. Tell me I'm wrong. Someone call. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're right.
Thank
Right.
you.
Okay.
You don't need to tell the kid.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, stress release is stress release, and sometimes people cross-dress and they just want to get out of their body and out of their sense of who they are and figure that they don't have the burdens on them. And I bet if you talk to that man, he would feel the pressure, unbelievable pressures of having to be a wage earner, and I'll bet he had a very strong father who took care of the family, and sometimes a man's burden gets very, very hard, and it's time to put a dress on.
Well, this is one of those calls where I wish that the husband had been there. You know, sometimes we get both people on the line. We don't have
once
too much time left.
I once
Okay.
had a couple that I saw where she was really angry when the husband finally revealed that he was a cross-dresser. She went into his closet and said, he had $250 shoes. I never spend that much on shoes. Go ahead.
We have Marilyn on line 4, whose husband is a flasher, I guess.
Marilyn.
Yes, I have an 18-year-old daughter. She's 18 now. About a year ago, she had mentioned that my niece had molested her and my oldest daughter. And I questioned my oldest daughter. She denies it. My niece denies it. And my husband has a problem that I think we should start on counseling with. And I'm kind of wondering if he didn't drink when she was back then when she was 6 or 7, and maybe something happened then and blocked it out of her mind.
Well, you think your husband molested her?
I don't want to think that.
But I mean, isn't that what you're suggesting, right?
I came up with a lot of
Yeah,
little things
but you're
here.
suggesting something about that, right?
It crossed my mind.
Okay, what is the problem with your husband?
He's recently flashed my 25-year-old niece, my sister, and other people that
Does he drink?
he blames that on for drinking. That's why he says he does it. He says he doesn't remember doing
How
it.
old is he?
He's 42.
And he's blaming it on the drinking. Well, put it this way. If he's blaming it on the drinking, he's an alcoholic.
It runs in their family.
Is he have any treatment for the alcoholism?
No.
So, are you drinking?
Yes.
And how much do you drink a day?
I drink a beer maybe,
Every day?
but he has 3 to 4 mixed drinks when he comes home from work.
Doubles?
It's about half and half.
Okay, so he's drinking 6 to 7 shots a night. He's an alcoholic. That's the problem. To call anything else the problem at this moment, I think, is wrong, because it'll take you off course. And he has to see that that's the situation. One way or the other, he has to see that it's the situation. With that amount of drinking, no matter what the problem is, you're not going to have effective therapy dealing with the flashing problem. You have to deal with the drinking problem first.
But I was kind of wondering if my daughter might have try to block it out of her mind that
I'm
her
sure
dad...
that's probably a problem as well. But whatever it is, the drinking problem has to be dealt with first, and I suggest he get in touch with AA and you get involved in the program too, because if you don't, it's going to be it's just going to go nowhere. The drinking is out of control. You know, the truth is that when alcohol presents itself as the key problem in any illness, psychological problem, it's useless to have therapy until you treat the alcoholism. We'll be right back. We only have 3 minutes. Let's see if we can do one quickie. Who do we have?
Okay, talk to Jimmy on line 7.
Jimmy,
Morning, Dr. Viscott.
we only have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Go for it.
I'm going with a man that's from Jamaica, and he recently told me, he told me about 15 years ago that he had taken a pair of my panties to a voodoo doctor that I would never be able to get away from him. And I've broken up with him several times, and each time it seems like I keep pulling back away from him, and he pulls me towards him. He's getting ready to move to Jamaica, and he tells me that I'm going to be moving with him. I tell him I'm never leaving the United States. And we've had arguments recently about him leaving, and I'm thinking that I won't be able to get away from him. And I'm Catholic, and I talked to a priest, and the priest told me that if I don't believe in voodoo, then I shouldn't believe what he's telling me. But it seems as though every time I get some space between our relationship, and I do care for him, and I told him I now that I know that he's planning to go to his home country, that I need to start building a life for myself here. My family's here, my children are here, and I'm getting scared that I won't be able to get away.
All right, wait a second. It's easy to make yourself powerless. What I'm going to suggest to you is going to be very difficult for you, Jimmy, but if you're willing to try it, it'll work.
Okay.
Stop seeing him. Start closing it off now. This isn't good. And you say to him, I'm going to show you just how weak the voodoo is. I'm not having any more to do with you starting as of now. Don't take his calls, have nothing to do with him, and leave it alone.
Thank you.
Can you do that?
I tried before I...
No, can you do that? Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I mean, the reason the voodoo works is called the placebo effect. You believe that it will work. And therefore, because you don't want to take responsibility for your life, you give the power away. Take the power back and say, I'm not seeing you anymore. I'm not taking this call. Don't call. And you completely shut yourself off from him.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sounds possible.
Okay. I didn't know you could take an article of clothing to a voodoo doctor.
Well, I grew up in New Orleans, and so this is not surprising to me at all. Remind me sometime, I'll tell you some other amazing voodoo stories.
Hoodoo. Anyhow, this is our next to last show. Our show next weekend is our 2nd anniversary. It's going to be a nostalgic moment. And why? Because following that show on the